And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
Hi. I wanted to talk a little bit about being timid and hesitation. A lot of times I think I use doing what feels good and letting things work out and trusting that everything will work out as an excuse for not speaking what I want.
Maybe, but when you are in alignment, you are not timid. You're sensitive maybe to others, but there's a clarity that brings a usual sense of boldness with it. And that feeling of hesitation is always about split energy. That feeling of second guessing yourself is always about split energy. Certainly that catering to what others think, looking for their approval and coming not to trust it, because often that they're not in alignment, and so they don't appreciate you, not because you're not appreciable, but because they're not in the mode of appreciation. So alignment first, and then
I feel like I get a lot of momentum going internally and on my own, and it's been my experience that at some point you have to bring in others in order to manifest
well, this is
something
the
big.
perfect basis for a conversation about unconditional living, isn't it? Esther began playfully saying, she was playful about it, but she meant it too. She said, I think I'm becoming a sort of vibrational snob, because she was enjoying her high-flying feeling and not really wanting to come down from it, and finding that sometimes in interacting with others that she would focus on conditions that then would make it not possible for her to maintain her alignment. And so then she began saying things like, when I'm by myself I can fly pretty high, and with strangers too. And then that made her begin to understand that she had fewer negative expectations of strangers. She didn't know about their conditions, so she was just naturally living more unconditionally when she was by herself, because there were frankly fewer conditions to notice, and fewer conditions with strangers than with people that she had already formed opinions about that were conditional and keeping her from her alignment. But after a while, that sort of puts you in a trap where you're off by yourself. Mm-hmm. And what you want is to be out where you can benefit by the co-creation of others. So this unconditional is something that you have to kind of practice, and then go out, practice, and then go out, practice, and then go out.
I find that in my mind a lot of times, even like right now, it's hard for me to focus on that ascension and that straight form of energy when I'm constantly thinking about what other people are going to think and how it's going to affect me.
That's all right. You see, that's what we meant earlier when we said don't feel uncomfortable about being where you are in terms of your belief about something or just the way something is unfolding. Don't beat up on yourself about it, because first of all, you've been trained that way. People have trained you to care about how they think, because it's important to most people who are living conditionally for you to create conditions that they can live with. And so you've been trained that way, and you're doing it to them and they're doing it to you. It's not something that you're all of a sudden going to stop doing, but there is an endless trap in that, because the more conditions you find necessary to control, and the more you are able to a certain extent muster your power and your clarity and your strength and your position or whatever in order to demand conditions that please you, then the bigger the trap you get into, because the more you have to control. That's usually what makes people finally give it up, because there become too many things that you can't control that you feel that you need to control in order to feel good. Where when you begin to understand that you don't have to control anything in order to feel good, you just have to care enough about feeling good that you're willing to reach for thoughts that do feel good, then you are so powerful, because then you can go out, step 4 living that we were talking about earlier, be in the world, interact with others, and not lose your place because you're worried about what they are thinking about you. It's easy to develop a belief of mistrust about how people feel about you, because most people are not making you the center of their universe. And those who are, in time you wish they wouldn't. Because when somebody makes you the center of their universe, then they tend to think that their well-being is conditional on what you are able to achieve or perform, and then that starts feeling like entrapment, and before long you're resenting that person and the hold they've got on you in your life experience. This is all making perfect sense to you, isn't it? So come back around to what you were talking about earlier. We understand that it's easy not to trust people to like you because of experiences that you may have had, and because of the drum that you keep beating, because when you expect something it turns out that way. That's why it is so freeing to let go of that. Does it feel to you that we are wanting you to let go of all conditions and just live in this very general world of emotions? Because that's not our intent at all. We just want you to start there and then go out. We just want you to get that basis. So you feel good about who you are because you've practiced it, and you feel good about who you are because you've practiced it, and Source is joining you because Source feels good about who you are, so you've got momentum going. People who don't feel good about who you are don't have access to you. But if you want to feel good and are self-conscious, and you want to feel good and you're self-conscious, so you got this big wobble going on, then you attract all kinds of people that satisfy the wobble. You get what you think about whether you want it or not. So if you don't trust people to like you, you can attract people who do.
And I guess I think I get really far along with that momentum, and then it comes right to the moment where
you
it's
need
time
to
for me
practice
to
more.
open my
Right
mouth.
to the moment where you need to practice more. That's all. Right to the moment where you need to practice more. Right to the moment where you need to practice more. In other words,
So do I keep taking myself to that point again and again?
We would.
Because it's hard after every experience like that. It's almost like a graveyard of things that haven't manifested, and experiences or opportunities that have been lost.
Only because you activated it, and now those are the things that are coming into your mind. In other words, whatever you're realizing, whatever's flowing into your consciousness, it's not flowing because it's assigned, and it's not flowing because it's necessary. It's just flowing because that's what's most active within you right now, and so that's what's flowing. If you get on a train of unpleasant experiences, just stop and say, I'm the common denominator in this. And more important, what thoughts have I been thinking that are the common denominator? What's the reason for this? Momentum is such a good thing to acknowledge when you are thinking about law of attraction, because when you get off on a vibrational jag, on a thought jag, don't you notice that even when you're around the table with people visiting, that somebody will start something and another jumps in and another jumps in and another jumps in, but you won't jump in if you're steady before you get there. If you are in alignment with who you are before you get there, then those conditions won't evoke from you a feeling of being timid. They will evoke from you a feeling of being clear-minded, that jumping in here is not going to be to any advantage. The thing that is common in interacting with others is you start out with a slight insecurity about what you know, or about something, about what you know. And then as you talk with others, there's a trying to shore up what you know from a place of being uncertain. The thing that trips more of you up in finding this wobble-free alignment more often is that it feels to you that you need somebody else to understand what you're saying or even agree with you, which means you're looking to them for the power rather than to your alignment with Source for the power. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So now it's important. Esther would say to Jerry, I really want to know what you think. And he would give her that silly grin, and he would say, I don't think you want so much to know what I think you just want me to agree with you. Because the conversation sometimes would go on for a while as she's coming at it from another way and from another way and from another way, because there's something about getting somebody to agree with you that can sort of shore you up, but it really is looking for alignment or love in all the wrong places. And so that feeling that you need to make yourself understood You need them to understand you is the biggest trap of all, because if they're not in the vibrational vicinity of where you are, they're not going to understand you anyway. And the harder you try, then the more conditions you introduce to the scenario that have the likelihood of causing you to begin to wobble. And then you feel timid. And so rather than calling it timid, call it wobble. And rather than calling it angry, for a little while, call it wobble. Instead of calling it frustrated, call it wobble. Call it me introducing into what could be a pure vibration with lots of strength and power and clarity. I'm introducing wobble because I'm trying to get you to agree with me, rather than aligning with what already agrees with me. Source loves me. You don't. And when I try to get you to love me, I wobble. Source loves me. If I was looking for love from Source, I wouldn't be wobbling, because Source is right there loving me. Source is unconditional. Source isn't saying you have to have this skin color or this sexual orientation or this financial prowess or this political or religious affiliation. Source is loving unconditionally. It's humans that make it hard for you to trust, you see. So why are you looking to the humans for your alignment when Source is right there beaming it at you all the time and giving you constant feedback about how close to the beam you are or not, you see? So now when you say, sometimes I'm timid, what you really mean is, sometimes I don't trust other people to hold me in alignment while they're in alignment with Source. And since I'm not willing to find alignment, we're just carried away here, since I'm not going to get in alignment with Source, I'm going to find some person who's already in alignment with Source, and then I'll hook up with my alignment through that other person. Oh, missed that one. Now I'm timid. Oh, missed that one's not in alignment either, so I feel timid. That one's not in alignment, so I still feel timid. That one, will you please look at me and be in alignment and love me? Oh, not you either, huh? So I still feel timid. Where you could just directly go to Source, who's always there, loving you unconditionally. And then you don't feel timid. You feel bold, you feel empowered, you feel sure, you feel certain, you feel ready. Helpful?
Yes, very much.